Hey guys, this is Johnny Rodriguez and you're watching the Video Game Masters. We continue to check out these lost reviews with Scott Pilgrim vs. the World and Saturday Night Slam Masters. We reviewed the original Scott Pilgrim game for the PS3 thanks to Land Moore, but this is the new PS4 re-release with physical copies from limited run games. Let's check it out.
Scott Pilgrim vs. the World first came out in 2010 for the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. It was removed from the online shops in 2014, but luckily it made a comeback for the PS4, the Xbox One, the Switch, and PC gaming in January 2021.
Oh, you're here too, huh?
Yep, I have the Switch version, so I just gotta join you guys.
The game is a side-scrolling beat-em-up that plays similar to River City Ransom. Based on the Scott Pilgrim graphic novel series and the live-action movie, Scott Pilgrim has to defeat Ramona Flowers' 7 evil exes, if he wants to go out with her.
The original game had you choose between Scott Pilgrim, Ramona Flowers, Kim Pine, and Steven Stills. The complete edition includes Knives Chow and Wallace Wells, who were originally DLC. You can also play with up to 4 players.
Just like the Evil Exes, the game has 7 stages called worlds. These are very long stages though, crammed with challenging enemies even when you're fighting on your own. Throughout the stages, you can find all sorts of weapons and items to throw around, even the enemies themselves. You can also rack up coins with every bag that you beat, and you can use them in these shops you find to refill your life by buying food and drinks. You can also find these hidden subspaces where you can rack up tons more coins to hit the shops. Other than River City Ransom and I guess Double Dragon, this game is full of all sorts of references to other games and stuff like the Super Mario games and the Mega Man games, and hey, check out this Akira reference as well. That's just fucking awesome. As you'd expect, the bosses are the various evil exes and they each have different ways to get taken down.
The more you play the game and replay some of the earlier stages, the more your characters can level up. The characters unlock more attack moves as they level up, plus if you're lucky enough to level up your energy refills. That's very useful seeing as just how many enemies you fight.
In multiplayer games, you can revive your fallen buddies, which is pretty helpful. You can of course play with people that are right there in the room with you, or you can play online, although you have to sign up for an Ubisoft account for some reason to do this. That's kinda weird. When you land enough hits, your character will glow yellow, and as long as nobody else hits you before you attack your next opponent, you'll go combo crazy on their ass. Just look at Scott go! That's just insane. Well anyways, with such a tough game, are you badass enough to help Scott defeat the 7 evil exes and find true love? You'll have to play to find out. Alright guys, here's our thoughts on the game, and oh god, what can I say, this is a very difficult game. It's a lot harder than I remember. Maybe because back in the day we were playing it all 4-player and stuff, but oh wow, the stages are super long, the enemies take a long time to like defeat. I don't know man, and then like when your characters die, if you're playing a 1-player, you die, you gotta start the whole thing all over again, and if you're playing even with 3 players, if they die, they're dead for good, so I'm still stuck alone. And then if you continue, let's say you beat stage 2 or something, when you go to stage 3, I'll have like 2 lives or something, and they'll still have just only 1 life left because they died, and that kind of sucks. Like I have to kill myself on purpose to have us start out with 3 lives each. So this is a very, very difficult game, man. I don't know how. I mean, it's fun and all, and I love all the retro references, but I don't know how anyone can finish it, man. What do you think, Johnny?
Wow, so the game's pretty cool. I mean, it does have good action, good combos, you know, the characters are cool, graphics are nice, it gives you that 16-bit feel of the game. But of course, like what everybody else is saying, the game is just way too damn long, the levels are too long, and I think the worst part is that the regular enemies, not the actual boss, but the regular enemies that you fight with, they take too much damage. Like, you really waste time with them, and they keep cornering you, and they're everywhere. Like, it just gets ridiculous after a while. That's what I think about the game.
liked the soundtrack. The soundtrack was really good. The animation was nice. Commands were a little button mashy, but I really liked it. Hadn't played it before originally, so it's nice to do it on a console that I recognize. Oh, and it was just time consuming, but I liked the soundtrack, liked the animation, I really liked the colors. Really the only downside was how many side enemies were distracting me from the boss itself, because it was almost impossible to get past those to get to the actual boss on the level.
So what do you think, Angel?
The game was a little hard to play when playing alone, but once you got the hang of it, it was a little easier to level up and move on to different worlds. Playing with 2 or more players was definitely easier and a lot more fun, especially when you have your buddies around to give you extra lives.
Now, of course, we're not saying the game is bad just because it's difficult. It's just that this one, you really have to earn your victory, you know what I mean? So, yeah, the game is pretty tough and everything. It's actually tougher than the original version. I'm not sure why they did that. But, yeah, it's a pretty tough game. But you got to grind. You got to replay the levels. You got to level up your characters. You got to get more moves. You got to get better with your combos. As you play the game over and over, you kind of get used to, like, the boss patterns and stuff like that. It does get easier. You do get further along the more you level up and get used to it. But, yeah, this game isn't one that you could just kind of, I guess, just jump in and rush through it like you would with Streets of Rage 4, for example. This one, you gotta work for it, man. You gotta, like, really earn your ending.
That was fun, and Averis joined us for that one. Now we move on to Saturday Night Slam Masters for the SNES. Mark and I were lucky enough to find this at a retro store at a decent price, so we decided to grab it and check it out.
Hi.
Saturday Night Slam Masters first hit the arcades in 1993 and was later released for the SNES and Genesis in 1994. It's a wrestling game with some Street Fighter style moves mixed in. The game is either 1 or 2 player, but you can also have a 4 player 2-on-2 match if you had the SNES multi-tap. Now that would have been cool to have. We could have brought Poke and Drew over. The game has 8 cool characters to choose from, like Viv Slankovich, a Russian wrestler that trained with Zangief, and El Stingray, a Mexican luchador. Of course, the most popular character is Mike Hagar from Final Fight. For some reason, the Japanese version of the game takes place during Hagar's good old days as a wrestler before he became the mayor of Metro City. But the American version acts like he returned to wrestling after he was done being a mayor.
Like Johnny said, the game mixes wrestling slams and holds with some Street Fighter style moves. Everyone has 2 different moves that can be done by either mashing the buttons like how Chun-Li and E Honda do their attacks, or doing Street Fighter style fireball motions or spinning pile driver motions, what we call the 360. You also have specific slams that count as pins or holds that can make the opponent give up. When you're out of the ring, you can also use weapons like tables and chairs.
When you choose single player mode, you can choose the 8 characters, and after beating them, you face the 2 bosses, Jumbo, Flapjack, and the Scorpion. After you're the champ, you gotta fight against everyone to defend your title. In team player mode, you can fight alone with a computer partner or 2 player, and now you can select Jumbo and Scorpion too. In this mode, there aren't any bosses, you just fight several matches of random teams, until you win the tag title and have to defend it again. All 4 wrestlers fight at once in this mode, which is where the SNES multi-tap would come in. Man, we gotta get one of those.
Alright guys, our quick thoughts for Saturday Night Slam Masters. First I do want to say though, we never played the original arcade, so we can only talk about the SNES version. You know, we can't really, like, I guess mention how faithful it was to the arcade, to the SNES version and everything. And what can I say? The game's a lot of fun. I love the character designs. You got good music. I love how Grader looks like Big Van Vader with the whole elephant type thing he used to wear when he goes to the ring. Of course, you gotta love Mike Hagar and stuff like that. And it's a lot of fun 2-player action with your buddy. I kind of wish we had the 4-player multi-tap, as Johnny said a couple of times. And yeah, 2-player is a lot of fun. I do have to admit it's kind of unfair to compare it because, you know, nowadays we're so used to like all these large rosters, so it does get a little old, I guess, because it's just 8 people to choose from. But, you know, what can we do? That's not here or there. On the 1-player mode, though, yeah, it is pretty difficult. It looks like the computer opponent always is the first one to grab you and slam you before you can. And when they pin you, like, that's it. It's game over. Like, I can't ever find a way to ever break the pin unless, I guess, I destroy my SNES controller. I'm not going to do that. But, yeah. I mean, yeah, you can get past it with, you know, some characters here and there. But it is still pretty tough. They can just end the match in like, minutes and seconds if you're not careful and everything. But I do find it easier when you're playing a team battle mode, because in the team battle mode, the other person can be controlled by either a player or the computer, and the computer character actually pulls their weight. There are so many games out there where you have an option of like having a second character controlled by the computer, and they're usually not that helpful, or they're kind of, you know, dumb as rocks. But this guy, this second tag team partner of yours, they put into work. They're like, you know, a lot of help. And I kind of feel that since the computer opponents are so busy trying to decide whether to attack like me or my partner, I find it a lot easier to get in there and do all the body slams and, you know, all the power drivers and all that kind of stuff. The, what do you call it, like the suplexes and the power bombs and all that. So, yeah, it is a little easier there. Now, of course, there's to be expected a couple limitations there. There's a little bit of slowdown, especially if you have, like, all four of, like, the largest characters in the game at the same time and everything, but that's to be expected. It's not too bad. And again, like, I don't know, I kind of find I can take advantage of the slowdown to once again grab the opponents and body slam them and stuff like that. It's just easier with the team battle mode, you know? The only thing I can say is that, yeah, I wish we had the 4-player thing. That would have been fun. Like, imagine, like, you know, a bunch of friends playing an old Super Nintendo game in 2021, right? But overall, it's a pretty good game.
What I thought about the game, first impression, is that the game feels a little bit like a mixture between Street Fighter and maybe a little bit of Final Fight. Like, it's kind of mixed between the two. You know, because the graphic style, you know, they announced the fights, and I don't know, it just looks kind of like Street Fighter-ish in a wrestling game. And, you know, they still do some of the juggles, and, you know, Hagar does his famous super moves and stuff like that. So, you know, it does give you a little bit of that Final Fight / Street Fighter feel of the game. I think the graphics are pretty decent at the time. Again, I haven't played the arcade version, so I can't really compare the graphics, but the characters are still, I don't know, decent size. They still animate pretty well. The action's pretty good. You know, it's not going to really compare to the, I don't know, other wrestling games that's out there, but on its own, I think it does pretty good. And of course, like what Mark said, the game does have a little bit of characters, so obviously if it was made nowadays, it would have more characters in the game. And that's the end of this episode of the Video Game Masters. Stay tuned because we still have a few more lost episodes to go. This is Johnny Rodriguez. Thanks for watching. See you next time.